Hello,
Hello.
everyone.
Hello,
Sally.
everybody.
Yes. Hello. Today is August 3. Welcome, Maginhawang Lunas, episode Agosto 3, 2025. Yes. And kasama natin si Super Sally. Super Sally, please greet everyone.
Hello, everybody. Welcome from a sunny, hot, and humid Manila. We are in the middle of summer and we are enjoying it.
Yes, ganun din dito sa Negros, mainit na mainit. Sumisilab ang araw, walang ulan, maganda, masaya. Nakapaglaba ako kaninang umaga at tuyong-tuyo na ang mga damit ngayon. I just said I did laundry this morning and I'm so happy.
Yes, I'm happy my laundry is all dry and I caught up from the laundry that couldn't be washed for 2 weeks.
Wow, that's a lot of laundry.
It is.
By the way, Sally, our ticker says July 13. So maybe you could look at that and it's supposed to be August 3.
Okay. Sorry to everybody. My high tech is not high tech enough. And I would have to work out how to change our banner.
It's all right. As long as they know this is the episode for August 3.
Okay, I removed the banner for now, and for next time that we go live, I will need to make a new banner.
All right. Anyway, this is the Maginhawang Lunas episode, and the theme for today is, in Tagalog, Paano bumuo ng masiglang kalusugan?
And this is referring to vibrant health?
Yes. Yes. How can we create vibrant health and build vibrant health? Yeah. So, ito yung magiging topic natin ngayong araw na ito. So, antabay lang kayo. Pag-uusapan natin yan. In the meantime, shall we proceed with our declarations?
Okay, here we go.
Go ahead.
We are a coalition and community of concerned Filipinos and friends of the Philippines who have united around the issue of medical and personal freedom. And we have quite a number of members in our group. Hilway Panay, X-Men Bacolod, Kalapay Wellness Center, which is represented by our dear Penny today. Ananda Matayog Wellness Center, Body Talk Philippines, Lunas Filipinas for whole chapter, and Lunas Filipinas Taguig chapter. And if anyone would like to join us, please do contact us after the show, and we will be very pleased to welcome new members to our coalition.
Yes, that's very true. And the next page is, we believe in a divine creator who created us in his image and likeness.
We believe in free will and human rights, freedom of choice, and informed consent.
We believe in personal and national sovereignty, self-sufficiency, and self-reliance.
We believe that the Philippines has an important role to play in the liberation and great awakening of humanity.
We believe that we are a nation of heroes and that we are capable of acts of courage, heroism, and greatness.
Our mission is to facilitate healing from the division and trauma caused by COVID-19 and to find solutions to the various challenges that we face as a nation.
We believe that because we are all part of the problem, we are all part of the solution. Each one of us can make a difference.
Together, tayo
ang lunas, may lunas,
Pilipinas.
Great.
This is our declaration. This is very meaningful for us because this sets our vision and our mission for where we want to go.
Exactly.
And I'll
So,
stop this now.
yes. So, how have you been, Super Sally?
I have been very well and I have been very busy.
What
I
have
think
you been busy with?
well, most people know that I am very interested in looking at statistics and the vital
Okay.
statistics published by the Philippine Statistics Office. And recently, I've been looking at some of the historical data and causes of death in the Philippines. And
Okay.
the leading, sorry, I will take a sip of water.
Okay.
The leading causes of death in the Philippines are lifestyle related diseases. These are heart attacks, cancers, strokes, diabetes. Um,
Okay.
Infectious disease only comes fairly low down in the leading causes of death. But one of the interesting things that I looked at this week was malnutrition as a cause of death. And specifically by malnutrition, we mean protein deficiency malnutrition, which causes death. And I had always thought that malnutrition was a pediatric problem in the Philippines, that it affected
Uh-huh.
mostly children. But
Yeah.
when I had a look at the statistics this week, I saw that more than 90% of the deaths from malnutrition, which is the peak of the problem because you will have a lot of people that are unwell, but they don't die. But the peak number of people who die from malnutrition in the Philippines are older Filipinos and senior citizens.
Wow,
Um,
that's significant. I never thought that was the case, no, sa mga kababayan natin. Itong sinasabi ni Super Sally, pinag-aralan daw niya ang mga statistics tungkol sa kakulangan sa nutrisyon or malnutrition at lumalabas na ang matatanda ang talagang may malaking risk diyan sa category na 'yan. Kulang sa sustansya, not enough nutrients.
yeah, and specifically insufficient protein.
Protina po, nagkulang sa protinang maganda. Okay? Yes, and what have you discovered further on this age group? What makes
Well,
it so?
I think I think when we look at protein malnutrition, there's many causes,
Okay,
and some of this could be related to poverty and access to food,
okay.
because people who are living in extreme poverty cannot afford quality food. But
Mhm,
this also, firstly, malnutrition starts early in life, so it is indeed a problem of children, but it's a lifetime cumulative problem if people don't have adequate nutrition. So this will also come down not only to access to food, but to knowledge on what constitutes an adequate diet. And
mhm,
in particular, we look around, we see many people are big. And when we see people are big, we think, oh, they must have excellent access to food. But this is
mhm.
not true because many people may look big, but they can still have malnutrition despite being overweight or even normal weight, because the quality of what they eat and the amount of protein and nutrients that they eat are not sufficient, even though
I
their
see.
calories may be too much.
Ayun. So, hindi ibig sabihin mga kababayan na kung ang tao ay mataba o mukhang malusog, sapat na ang kanyang kinakain at nakukuhang protina. Hindi ibig sabihin gano'n. Ang sapat at magandang kombinasyon ng nutrisyon, 'yan ang nagbibigay lakas at sigla sa isang malusog na tao. So, probably, Sally, there has a lot to do with also the quality of the food intake. When you say when you're big, it doesn't mean you're healthy. What are the possible causes of this bigness? What kind of
Okay.
food would influence that?
Well, there's a there's a there's a new discussion around, we call it obese but malnutrition, obese with
Huh?
malnutrition. So it's
Okay.
over calories but under nutrition. And what
Okay.
researchers have found is that, or we know that humans have certain essential nutrients. So the essential nutrients that we have For macronutrients, that's protein and fat. So we have essential amino acids, and we have which is from protein, and we have essential fatty acids which come from fats. And
Okay.
if you don't have enough protein, even if you eat a lot of calories, your brain will say, I'm still hungry because I
Ah,
need to eat enough protein to fulfill the needs of all of the cells in my body. And if we cannot get enough protein, regardless of how many calories you eat, you will still be hungry. So this is called protein satiety effect. So if you eat enough protein, you will be satisfied.
oh, that's an interesting point there you made, huh? That protina po ang susi sa pagkabusog ng tao. Kapagka may protina tayo, yun po ang talagang masasabi nating naaangkop na na intake. So, samples of protein can be
Okay.
eggs, right?
Yes.
Egg?
Okay. So we have two sources of protein. We have protein that come from animal sources,
Yes.
and we have proteins that come from plant sources. So the
Okay.
animal source protein come from meat, effectively
Okay.
meat, eggs, and dairy.
Okay.
These proteins are what we call complete proteins, meaning they contain the full profile of amino acids that make up the essential amino acids that we need for health. And then we
Yeah.
have plant foods. Plants also have protein. For example, nuts and beans and even green vegetables have some protein, but they
Aha.
don't have very much. And
Mhm.
the profile of the amino acids in plants are not complete the way they are with animal foods. So, for people who only eat plant foods, they may get some amino acids, but they might not get the full spectrum of protein that they need. So, it's more difficult if you're eating only plant foods versus a combination of plant and animal foods.
Right. Tapos sinasabi mo nga, Sally, about protein, no? These are building blocks for body tissues and also to regenerate the body. So, napaka-importante po talaga ng protina. And if you're not a meat eater, hindi po kayo kumakain ng karne, there are still sources that you can substitute, but nothing beats the actual um, animal source, right? So, what have you what have you further discovered when you made your studies, Sally?
Okay, so we see that as people get older,
Yeah.
the rates of malnutrition increase. And we
Ah.
also see that women have higher rates of malnutrition than men.
Oh, is that so? Bakit kaya?
Okay, so I think it's for an older person to have protein malnutrition. I think there's multiple factors. Of
Okay.
course, there is the adequate protein intake. Do they have access to enough quality protein? But in families, particularly in families that may not have sufficient funds, the women of the family may prioritize their children and their sons and even their husbands to eat first, and they may then deny themselves. And I have this memory as a child. I come from a big family, and we had limited budget. This is in Australia, not the Philippines. And
Uh-huh.
if my mother always served us first. And if there wasn't enough food, she would say that she wasn't hungry. So
Wow.
she prioritized
Yeah.
us. And
Yeah.
I think this
Oo.
is a very common maternal thing,
Mhm.
that they prioritize, it may be in the household the men are working as well. So they prioritize their children and their husbands before they look after themselves. There's also social pressures now towards plant-based diets. So
Mhm.
people want to be environmentally responsible, and so they consider that they eat more plant foods and less protein. But they don't realize that this can come at the expense of their health. And then for older people, it could also be that this food eating in human society is a social activity. So as older people, they have a shrinking social circle. They may have less will to eat. They may lose the desire or skills to prepare their own food, particularly if they're only preparing for themselves, or they may feel depressed and unwell, and that would also affect that. So, multiple factors, but it gets worse with age, and it's far worse in women than men.
What you just shared is quite insightful, no? And it cuts across quite several cultures about especially the women aspect na ang mga kababaihan po ang madalas nakakaroon ng malnutrisyon dahil bilang ina ng tahanan, malimit po ang kaugalian ng nanay, uunahin na lahat. Makakain lang ang mga anak, ang ibang miyembro ng pamilya kahit siya na ang huli, basta siguradong makakain ang iba. Kaya naiiwanan po ang mga nanay, na mga nag-aalaga, and that's the sad fact. See, they're the ones caring for the family, but they're the ones who get the malnutrition.
Yes. And it goes further than that because when we look at protein requirements are not stable across life. Okay,
Uh-huh.
an infant requires much higher protein than an adult because they're growing. So they have
Okay.
to get the building blocks for their body to grow. A pregnant
Uh-huh.
woman is growing a baby, so she
Mhm.
needs to have higher protein intake so that she can grow the baby. If she doesn't have sufficient protein during her pregnancy, her body will cannibalize her own body in order to provide the nutrition for the baby. So that would mean that the mother, her body may suffer during pregnancy. She gives birth to the child. If she then doesn't eat well, she's left at a protein deficient or perhaps a malnutrition state, even from childbearing, and that would carry on. So that in itself could contribute towards women having worse outcomes from malnutrition. So
Interesting. Very interesting. And this topic is quite timely because it's all over the news. August is the month of nutrition. Nutrition month is being the focal point. So we're really looking at what can really build our vitality and health through the food we eat. And I'd like to bring up a certain question, Sally. Itong protein and also the amount and even the kind, it's okay, right? We know we need a certain amount, but how can we guarantee that the food that we're taking in is actually the quality is appropriate for our needs? That it's actually clean and nourishing and not harmful to us?
okay, so I would start with the principle that we need to understand how much protein does any person need. Okay,
Okay.
so as I just mentioned, babies and children need more protein. Pregnant women need more protein. Um, People who are athletes need more protein because they're
Uh-huh.
growing muscle. Um,
Yes.
and also, they may need to repair their muscle after heavy training. People who are
Yes.
sick and recovering from illness need more protein. And then
Okay.
elderly people need more protein because their digestive processes have become less efficient. So, therefore, they should take in more protein in order to get the protein that they need.
Okay.
And then
And then
the next thing, so how much protein? The World Health Organization says that minimum protein requirement should be about zero point 0.8 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight for an adult. But this is the minimum to prevent starvation. It's not the optimal for vibrant health. So the optimal amount of protein for vibrant health for an adult is about 1 to 1.5 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. So if
could
you weigh
you illustrate
what?
that in a graphic example,
Yes,
like what's the
yes.
size of that?
Okay, so if I'm a 60-kilogram person, which I would love to be, but I'm not, I should be eating around. If I'm eating 1.5 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight, I should be getting about 90 grams of protein a day. If you're talking about an infant or an older person, you may need to multiply that by 2 or 3 times. So a 10 kilogram child may need not one, not a hundred, not 10 grams of protein. They may need 3 to 5 times. So a 10 kilogram child, an infant, may need 50 grams of protein a day.
All
So
right. So I'd like to dun sa mga nakikinig 'no, yung dami ng protina na kailangan natin depende po 'yan sa klase ng tao at edad. Kung yung bata, konti lang 'yan pero maliit lang yung bata pero malaki yung pangangailangan niya sa protina. Can you give an example like in a matchbox size, how many of that or in how many cups? Because in grams, hindi po not too familiar yung mga
correct.
tao, no?
Correct. So
So,
I'm going to give some examples now.
yeah.
So one large size egg
Yeah.
contains 6 grams of protein.
So isang itlog na malaki, large,
Yes,
6
yes,
grams of protein na yan.
yes.
Okay. Okay.
Around 3 ounces of chicken breast,
Okay.
lean chicken breast contains around 30 grams of protein.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. 1 cup of rice contains 3 to 4 grams of protein only.
Only.
Okay, so a hot dog
Yeah.
contains only 2 to 3 grams of protein.
So, yung malaking hotdog na yan, kokonti lang ang protina nun?
Yes,
It's
because
just
they have
little?
lots of fillers. Okay, a hot dog is
Aha.
not a hot dog. We can talk about quality now. Hot dog is not a quality source of protein because it's got lots of other things in it. Rice and
Okay.
plant foods are not high protein foods because they mainly contain water and carbohydrates. Of course, they have some nutrition, some vitamins and minerals. So, 1 cup of bean sprouts, for example, only
Yeah.
contains about 4 grams of protein. So, if you give your child a hot dog and a cup of bean sprouts and a cup of rice, they're only getting around 6 to 10 grams of protein in that meal, which is not
Okay.
adequate.
Mhm,
Which is
mhm.
not adequate for a child. So, if you're looking at quality protein sources, these are mostly whole and unprocessed foods,
So,
rather
para
than yes,
okay, unprocessed.
yes,
So, gabay lang po para madaling intindihin. Ano ba yung process na pagkain? Ano yung hindi process? Yung galing talaga sa bukid, galing sa palengke. Malalaman nyo because lahat po ng nakapasok sa plastic, anything that's in plastic or in packaging that you have to open up like that probably is processed food.
yes. That's what we when we eat for vibrant health, we
Yes.
have to understand where humans came from. So,
Mhm.
humans are animals as well. And we didn't evolve on processed foods, we evolved from foods in nature. And for
Uh-huh.
humans, if
Mhm.
we look at traditional societies, and way back, humans survived particularly on meat. That was their primary food. Humans were hunters and gatherers, and they were also scavengers. But meat was the primary food that enabled humans to evolve to where we are today. Of course, nuts, grains, they also provide
And
protein and
also
other
fats,
nutrients.
right? From the meat they
Yes.
eat, they got a lot of good fats.
Yes. So I mean, we have been taught to fear saturated fats and animal fats. But saturated and animal fats are the very first fats that humans evolved on. And there's new research. I think Children's Health Defense and Robert Kennedy has recently said that cholesterol is no longer a substance of concern.
Uh-huh. In
So
fact, yung utak po natin, our brain,
it's
uses
made of
fat.
cholesterol.
It's made of cholesterol, right? So
Our blood
we
vessels
actually
are
we
made of
need a lot of
cholesterol.
we need a good source of fats to keep our body functions flowing.
Correct. And the best sources of fats are natural and unprocessed. So in the Philippine context, that would be animal fats. When I talk to people about nutrition, I always say, eat the fat that comes with the food. When you eat your chicken, don't take off the fat, eat the meat and the chicken skin together. Eat the fat that comes with your pork.
Yes,
Don't deep fry it, but eat the fat that comes with the food naturally because that comes in perfect balance.
I see. So, eating then a balanced diet is so important. That's one. Making sure there's a adequate representation of all the fats, the proteins, the fibers, and less of the processed food. Wag na po natin bigyan pansin masyado ang mga maraming nabebenta diyan na wala naman talagang sustansya. So,
Mm.
it might fill us quickly but it really doesn't give us enough nutrients. Alam
Yes,
na po
so
natin yung mga yan, right?
Uh, yes, that's correct. One of the things I'd also like to raise that, or one of the reasons it's very important to avoid processed foods is that these foods don't contain many calories. Oh, sorry, they don't contain many nutrients. So when children, for example, drink soft drink before they eat, they may be full because they've taken in calories, and then they lose the appetite to eat real food. So it's important to avoid what we call empty calories.
And not to mention the sugar spike
Yeah. So
because what it can do to the body, right?
yes, correct. Humans, in humans, our blood sugar is very, very tightly controlled. In
Yeah.
a healthy person, their blood sugar will be 83, and it will not usually go below 80 or above 90 if they're
Okay.
healthy. But if a person eats heavily processed foods, these foods have so much sugar that our bodies cannot cope with that properly, and the blood
Mhm.
sugar will spike. So it's very important to choose foods that give us nutrition rather than just give us calories. And one very good example is fruit juice.
What's
We
that? Fruit juice?
fruit juice, fruit juice.
Okay. Fruit juice.
If you have a cup of orange juice, how many oranges will be in that cup? When you squeeze oranges, how many oranges go into one glass of orange juice?
Maybe one and a half or two.
No, usually 3 to 4 oranges for one
Really?
cup of juice. Correct.
Ah, okay,
So
okay.
if you were going to sit down and eat 3 or 4 oranges in one sitting, how would that feel? Would that be too much?
Quite, yes, because
Right,
of
but
all the fibers and the bulk.
correct. So we should be eating fruit in its natural form, not juiced. If you have a can of pineapple juice, that's quite a lot of pineapple. It's far more than you would eat if you were just eating the pineapple that it came from. So when we eat things like sweet fruits, it's important that we eat them in their unprocessed form rather than we juice them. We can take it quickly without realizing the impacts on our body.
Your question made me think deeper about my eating habits because I could not even get the correct answer how many oranges are in a glass of orange juice
Yes, yes. So you
because
don't usually squeeze oranges, right?
yeah, and people are nakasanayan na po natin na nakadelata na lahat juice in Tetra Pak. We don't really have a direct connection to the actual produce or yung tanim or yung prutas in its raw form.
Yes.
Because if you will squeeze the orange fresh, mahal din yon. That's expensive. How many kilos of oranges do you have to buy to get the fresh one? And practical reason says, ah, I'll just buy a Tetra Pak of orange juice or a can and I can drink the juice. But those are two different quality, right?
That's a very different. And now you've raised another point. Indirectly, when we look at processed foods and we look at how they're packaged, you put your orange juice in a Tetra Pak. That Tetra Pak is lined with plastic, and your juice is acidic. And so you will be getting contaminants from the packaging into your juice. when you take juice in a can, again, your aluminium can is not just aluminium, it's lined with plastic. So we have to consider how foods are packaged if we want to consider if these foods are safe for eating. Now, for example, tomato paste. If you get tomato paste in a glass jar, that is stable, so you're not going to get significant contaminants from the glass. But if you take your tomato paste from a Tetra Pak or from a can, the acidity of the tomato is going to leach the packaging into the food itself. So it becomes very important to look at how our food is packaged as well, not just if it contains sugar or not, or other undesirable components.
So it's like you're saying, go closest to the source as much as possible. Is that
Yes.
right?
Yes, I mean, I would like to encourage that as far as possible, we should eat unprocessed food as close to its natural form, as close to its God given form as possible. We should also eat local where we can, and if possible, we should try to source foods even from within our community, because this is giving us foods that are appropriate for our climate and our environment.
Wow. Ang sinabi po ni Sally, very practical at very helpful tips para maibalik natin ang kasiglahan ng katawan, kalusugan. Siguro ang laman po ng palengke natin, going to market is the best option right now actually, because dun mo makikita lahat ng dapat preskong pamilihan ng karne, gulay, isda, and wala masyadong packaging yang mga yan. Of course, meron pa rin, but as limited as possible. Do you know,
Yes.
Sally, I had a lot of tomatoes. I think last May or June. And I decided to make tomato ketchup.
Yes.
Yes. And it really tastes good compared to the one in the store.
Yes.
And I froze it in glass bottles. It was able to stay frozen. So anytime I need a bottle of tomato ketchup, I bring it out of the freezer.
Yeah, that is wonderful. And you know, you said you had so many tomatoes. So this brings up another point that when we live in communities, maybe we can network with our friends and neighbors to share food and
Uh-huh.
look at whether we can grow our own. Now, I've been to where Penny lives. I know you have a wonderful garden. I am incredibly jealous. I live in a condominium, but even living in a condominium, I'm fortunate. I have some balconies, so I grow alagbati. I have mulberry,
Mm-hmm.
and I grow some other plants on my balcony. So even though this is not a lot of food that I'm growing, it contributes to variety. And one of the very important things in our diet is to have as much variety as possible, because that means we get multiple sources of nutrition and multiple different vitamins and minerals. If we only eat, for example, we only eat corn and potatoes and carrots,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to be limited into how much nutrition you get from those, assuming you eat meat as well, because I'm not, or meat or fish or chicken and eggs,
Yes.
because animal foods tend to be very high nutrition. But if you limit your food to a very small number of foods, you will have less nutrition than people who eat a wide variety of foods. So one of the recommendations I always make is that we suggest that people try to eat the rainbow. Eat
Ah,
foods from as many different colors as possible. And
the
it can
rainbow
even
on
be
your plate. So
have a
yung
rainbow on your plate. Maybe not a rainbow every single day, but within your week, you eat foods from all different colors.
mhm. You raised several good points there. Kasi kung alam natin kung saan galing ang ating pagkain, meron tayong mas malakas na koneksyon sa quality ng kinakain natin. kung kakilala natin yung nagtatanim, kung alam natin na hindi siya nag-spray ng pesticide, it's pesticide free. Alam na natin na panatag ang loob natin na okay 'to kainin. Hindi ako magkakasakit dito. It's knowing the source of the food. That's also important. That's why urban gardening and maybe even allotments, growing food together in the city or wherever you are, it makes mas maraming kasama, mas maraming suporta, nagtutulong-tulong, at magandang malaman paano nga ba 'to pinapadami, anong ginagamit niya para gumanda yung tanim niya o yung produce niya. I know that in Metro Manila, when I was there, going to your place, there's this beautiful little urban little garden that they're growing eggplants and blue ternate and simple things, but it matters so much when you know you can pick the produce right there.
Yeah, and even small variety can make a difference. So
Yes,
it's also where possible we should do farm to table, so that
yes,
we know our producers. So if this is feasible, then we should also look into that. But I'd like to extend a little because for some people this might not be possible. So if
yes,
you're not able to grow your own food, if you are limited to buying food either in the palenque or even in the supermarket, how do you prepare it to be as safe as possible? Already starting from the principle that we're going to be focusing mainly on eating, unprocessed plant and animal foods.
that's right. I would normally uh, make sure that the food is cleaned very well. Dapat na nababad na yan ng maayos. I usually use an ozone machine or baking soda, uh,
Hmm.
soaking the vegetables in baking soda or even the pork meat or the fish, just to make sure na walang mga pesticide residues or toxins, and then rinsing it thoroughly. Yeah.
Yes. So I think that's a good recommendation. So even if if you can afford organic, that's wonderful. But if you cannot afford organic or don't have access to it, you're still better off eating whole unprocessed non-organic foods than you are eating processed foods. Providing that you know how to prepare them, you wash them properly, you can wash with a baking soda solution, you can wash with a tablespoon of vinegar. That's another
Yes,
solution.
that's right.
Um, so there's different ways of making sure your foods are as clean as possible. For certain
Right.
foods, we know they use more pesticides than others. For example, celery is a food that's known to be high pesticides because it will be eaten by many things. A lot of the green vegetables, like cabbages, can also be eaten by insects, so they use
Yes.
pesticides. So,
Right.
so knowing which foods are higher risk may also guide you. If you can only afford certain foods that are organic, some foods are more high risk than others, so you might select just those. Or if you still have to do all commercial foods, you just wash them properly, soaking them in water with vinegar or bicarb soda, so that they're as clean as possible. And it doesn't have to be the expensive vegetable wash. It can be low tech.
No tech. Simple. Hindi
Yeah,
magastos.
yeah.
So, by the way, we have people joining in the comments.
Oh, I haven't seen
Junji
the comments.
says,
Let's see.
hello,
I'll
hello,
have a look.
Junji. Manong Marcos has been posting your Substacks. And Sinag has been saying hello. Thank you, Sinag, for highlighting this to your followers. Thank you. You're all welcome to give comments. Kung nanonood kayo, saan man kayo nandoon, sa Pilipinas, sa ibang bansa, mag-comment lang kayo at makisali sa aming usap-usapan.
Yeah.
So, I'd like to also point out a certain thing, and I learned this following the work of decentralized medicine, why it's important to eat local and in season. And ang ibig sabihin po nito Kung panahon ng mga gulay, dagsaan ng kamatis, maraming abokado, 'di ba ngayon papunta na tayo ng mga August, September, mga lansones, 'no? Always try to eat in season because the energetic imprint of these vegetables are more balanced and appropriate para sa atin. So, nagbibigay enerhiya po ang mga ito. At kung local ang ating consumption, yun po ang talagang bagay. Not like hahanap tayo ng cherries or nectarines or ah, kiwi fruit. Of course, baka may kiwi fruit dito sa Philippines, but it's not really grown locally here, no? So what I'm just saying is, kung pwede tayong sumuporta sa mga tanim talaga dito sa Pinas, yun po ang naaangkop sa nutrition natin. Yeah. And I also learned, Sally, about circadian eating.
Yes.
And it has something to do with the sun. And ang sabi nga ni Dr. Jack Cruz, the famous neurologist who promotes eating with the sun, is that eat during the daytime. Once you do that, you are optimizing the absorption of the nutrients and the energy from the food. Because if we load ourselves sa stomach sa gabi at night, we usually have to digest and give so much energy as we go to sleep. And that has a particular effect. What do you think it is?
Okay, I know two effects. If you have a heavy meal at night, it can affect the quality of your sleep. But
Uh-huh.
not only that, I mean, I'm familiar with diabetes and diabetes management. So if you eat a heavy meal at night, you're releasing energy to your body that it can't use. So you
Uh-huh.
have an excess of energy that will then be stored in your liver, will be stored as fat. So and if you are diabetic, you will end up with very high blood sugar. So it's very important that your nighttime meal should not be your heaviest meal. Your heavier meals should be early in the day, and your evening meal should be light. And ideally, you should not eat at least for 2 to 3 hours before you sleep. But if you sleep very late, it should be late longer. If you sleep at midnight, which you shouldn't do, we could talk about sleeping another time.
Yes.
But if you eat, you should have a good gap between when you eat and when you sleep, so that your stomach is relatively empty by the time you sleep.
And we actually don't use too much energy when we're sleeping, right?
Well, sleeping is the time that your body should be healing and it should be
Exactly. Yeah.
repairing. And if your
Repairing.
body is instead digesting, you're having energy from your body diverted to digestion instead of to healing and renewal.
Exactly. In fact, having a good night's sleep, katumbas po yan ng healing time. If you really had a good sleep, that's a good chance that your body is recovered for the next day. And that's why important the proper timing of when we are eating and the proper nutrition we're getting. But I also want to bring up a topic, another one. They say that nutrition starts in the eyes because when you look at the food, you either like to eat it or not, right?
Yes.
And also, when you're eating and your eyes are on something else, not the food, like the cell phone. Yeah. Have you ever tried na mga kumakain diyan na nakatingin sa cellphone, hindi sa pagkain? Hindi po tayo matutunawan 'yan, mga kababayan. Kailangan po natin bigyan pansin yung pagkain talaga, hindi yung cellphone habang kumakain. because that is not mindful eating. We're just swallowing the food. We're drinking the food, gulping it as we are digesting, because digesting starts at the mouth and the eyes too. We look at the food, we eat, bite, and we really have to spend time sa pagnguya. Yung the nguya is the chewing part. And sabi nga nila if you are chewing the food in the mouth and you chew it long enough, your mouth saliva is already picking up on the hormones and the the substances that will break down the food in the stomach. And the saliva is actually signaling already that, hey, you have to produce this to break it down further and distribute it all over the body. So digestion is so important, but so is chewing and mindfulness in eating.
I think it goes even beyond that. I mean, you know that there's certain medicines that you place under the tongue and they're
Yes.
absorbed directly because when medicines are placed under the tongue, the way they're absorbed is they bypass the liver,
Aha.
which means that they're processed differently. So when you eat slowly and mindfully, some of the components of the food will also be going directly to your body. So
So
you know
ito yung
there is
mga this is the sublingual, no? When you're
yes.
saying when you take homeopathic medicines, it's sublingual, anthroposophic ones, it's sublingual, or anything under the tongue, the
Yes.
nitro, yeah. So what you're saying is bypass on liver. So
So
because
I think I haven't studied this, but I think that this mechanism will be preparing your body also for what you're eating, so that your body is getting advanced information even before the digestion process is in
mhm,
detail. We shouldn't
mhm.
underestimate the wisdom of our bodies and how they work with our food. The historically doctors say food is your first medicine, and
Actually,
ultimate
yes.
actually food is not just essential for survival, it really is the basis of everything else in our bodies. And just talking about cell phone, I will divert. I mentioned earlier that eating is a social activity, and it is incredibly important that we maintain social interactions at meal times for our wellness. So that's also part of mindful eating. It's being mindful not just of yourself, but of your companions.
But did you notice that, Sally? Especially when you're going out to the restaurant and you see people eating together, no? Most of them are looking at their cell phones. Again, I'm bringing back the cell phone.
It is tragic. It is
It's
tragic,
really
and
sad.
it's tragic, and it is destructive of society, and it's disconnecting people and disconnecting us from our energy as a community and as a family. So for all of our listeners here, again, this is a diversion. In order to be well, we as humans must recognize that we are essentially communal animals, and we must build our community to stay well. And we know that even people who are critically ill, when they're part of a community, they have the ability to fight and to live longer and even to recover, because the energy of the community builds them up and sustains them. And so we must develop that energy in wellness, not just in case we're not well.
That's so important. Yung pamilya, the family, the Filipino family, nagbabago na po. Hindi na katulad noon. Dati, may nanay, may tatay, may lolo, may lola. Pagka nagsama-sama sa palibot sa mesa, nagkwekwentuhan, nangamustahan, tapos kumakain sabay-sabay. Ngayon, nakaganyan na lang lahat. Tapos, 'pag walang makausap, kailangan merong hawak at may tinitignan na cellphone dahil hindi komportable kung walang hawak na cellphone. So I'm just saying, it's so almost like a crutch, the cell phone, that you, when you are uncomfortable without it, you cannot do without it. Even when you're eating and you're not talking to anyone, it's much better to eat and look at your phone. And it's very sad because kailangan po natin ng kausap na tao, na ibang tao, hindi po ka-chat, hindi po ka-messenger or what, yung talagang usapang harapan. That's why nutrition is linked to well-being o yung kaginhawaan. Nutrition is linked to wellness, health, but also nutrition is linked to the strength of being together as a group of people. Napansin nyo, meron bang nagbubudol na naka-cellphone? Wala, di ba? Have you ever seen that budol where everyone's holding the food with the hands and then they're eating the food and putting it in the mouth like that? Mm. In Visaya, kalami. Mm. Kot-kot na. So, you don't usually hold the cell phone while you're doing that, and they say that eating is more fun and really good when it's by hand and in a boodle, in a under on a leaf of a banana, and they're all together. So let's bring that back. That's that spirit of community and togetherness while we're eating. And then maybe baka sakali lang mas masarap ang kain natin, 'di ba? Mas nutritious pa, mas healthy pa, at hindi tayo nakahawak parate sa cellphone. So there's some good customs and cultural practices that we can revive and connect to, right?
and build on. And
And build on.
talking about cell phones, make sure that your children are involved in eating with the family. I've noticed recently in many restaurants, the child is left in the stroller with a cell phone to occupy itself while the
Oh,
parents eat. And
oh,
I have to tell everybody, cell phones are incredibly destructive for young children. And young children below school age should not be handed a cell phone ever.
mhm.
They should not touch a cell phone. They should not be babysat by these. It causes physical damage to the brain. Literally, physical damage to the brain, physical damage to the eyes, and it destroys social abilities. So, if you give your child one of these, you are damaging their future. I cannot emphasize this enough, and this is very harsh to say. We must get over our addiction with these things. Mine is off at the moment, by the way. It's just
Thank
sitting on my
you.
desk.
Yes. I have a very strong position on cell phones too. That's why I always make a connection link sa cell phone because it's so much a part of life. But we have to know the limits to the use, because if not, it will be abused and cause harm. So, Sally, time flies. We only
It
have
does.
how many
It's
more minutes
7
before the
minutes.
hour is over?
7 minutes.
Yeah. So, it's really good when you're having a good conversation and a lot of topics went into this. In summary, what can you do what to really create vitality para pagandahin, pa payabungin ang ating kalusugan? What are the main points again that we want to help
Okay.
people remember?
Uh, the main point is that your most essential nutrient is protein. We
Okay.
must prioritize protein in all meals. If you
Okay.
have to choose between buying a dozen eggs or buying a few cups of rice, go for the dozen eggs. No joke.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
prioritize protein, number one. Number two, eat your foods whole and unprocessed. Number
Okay.
three, of course, prepare your foods well, wash them properly. Number four, eat with community because we are part of the community. And
Yes.
number five would be seasonal eating. Eat local, eat seasonal, eat with your climate.
Eat within the climate and know where your food comes from. Alam nyo, madali lang maka-pick up lang lahat ng kailangan natin, pa-deliver pa nga minsan eh. But the more we can prepare our own food and even buy our own food, it's better because at least alam natin saan ba galing 'to, usisain natin saan ba 'to tanim. And if you know the person growing your food, that's better. That's the best actually. So that
did,
you know the source.
did you know that when anybody makes or creates or grows something, their own energy is put into that? So when you then get the food from someone you know, you're sharing in that energy. It's more than just the food that you eat.
Yeah, it's an intermingling and intercommunion with that person. You know, this is such an enriching topic and very appropriate for Nutrition Month this August. Let's keep in mind that eating properly is a mindset. Nasa isip natin yan, anong ipapasok natin sa bibig natin eh. Anong papasok natin para kainin. And maybe we can think deeper with this, the information shared with you today, that wellness starts in the mouth, the food we eat, and how that can translate, how can that affect our whole body, even the mood, right? Even how
Absolutely.
we feel.
Yes.
So everything is connected, and I'm really hoping they were able to pick up a lot of information. The viewers out there, share your comments in the comments page, and if you have comment section, if you have some questions, pwede namin sagutin yan sa susunod na mga episodes. Hopefully, Tanya Lat will be joining us soon, someday soon. She's still abroad. But rest assured, whatever we shared this Sunday with you, we hope that ma-inspire kayo sa susunod na kakainin ninyo. Maiisip ninyo, ano nga ba yung sinabi ni Super Sally at Penny? Nutrition. Nutrition is important. Protein. Lahat ng mga pinapaalala namin. So, Sally, would you like to end the session with the recap now of our prayer?
Yes, here we go.
Yes. So let's do the humble prayer. As usual, we are asking God's blessings, the Lord God, to make us good instruments. And let's begin, Sally. You can go ahead.
Okay. Lord, make me an instrument of your peace.
When there is hatred, let me sow love.
Where there is injury, pardon.
Where there is doubt, faith.
Where there is despair, hope.
Where there is darkness, light.
Where there is sadness, joy.
Grant that I may not so much seek
To be consoled as to console.
to be understood as to understand.
To be loved as to love.
For it is in giving that we receive.
It is in pardoning that we are pardoned.
It is in dying that we are born again to eternal life. Amen.
Amen. Such a meaningful prayer from St. Francis of Assisi.
Very much. And we leave that as our message to everyone, maging liwanag sa dilim. Let's carry the light within us in the darkness.
And let's know that we generate that light by our lifestyle, by our choices, and by our conscious decisions every day, in every big and little thing.
That's right. Thank you so much. Thank you for sa mga nanonood, nagko-comment. We hope we've given you some seeds of inspiration till
And
we
food
meet
for thought.
again. And
Food for thought.
exactly, food for thought. Di ba? So, Sally, till we meet again,
Yes, be well, be happy, be strong.
and be in the fullness of good nutrition and a healthy lifestyle.
Yes, absolutely. So, blessings to everybody.
Blessings till we meet again. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.